Welcome back to another episode of Christian Natural Health. Today, I'm very pleased to have Rob Rene with us. Rob is a faith-driven entrepreneur who turned personal struggle into a movement. After years of chronic fatigue and dead-end solutions, Rob founded Exodus Strong, blending biblical wisdom with cutting-edge science to restore vitality. With a knack for business and a passion for ministry, he's now equipping Christian communicators to fund their missions while sparking 1 million new Bible readers through better health. Welcome, Rob. Thanks so much for joining us.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about your story. What was the journey that got you into natural health?
Yeah, if you would have told me I'm doing what I'm doing now 5 years ago, I'd have said, you're absolutely nuts. Maybe it was 6 years ago, but still, I was like, this was definitely not what just kind of as a youth. My story goes way back to then because it's really impactful in the respect that I was a runner and I loved athletics, but running was my specialty. And I got a full ride running scholarship to a Division I school. And one of the things that helped me when I was really young was I read a book called Eat to Win. I don't know if you
Uh,
ever heard of that book, but that book was so impactful for me from a youth perspective. But I learned how what you put in your body fuels your body,
sure.
right? Obviously, but it was most people nowadays I'm learning don't understand that.
Right. Yeah.
So, part of my story, and I ended up getting hit by a 4x4 truck
Oh my.
in college, and that ruined my running career. I almost died that particular day. So was just a huge impactful moment in my life. It's the first time in my life where all of a sudden I had the path and everything was going great, and then boom, it's all of that was over in an instant.
Yeah.
But I survived that accident, so I knew God had a plan for my life.
Mhm.
I just wasn't sure what it was yet. And so then I went for 20 plus years into the corporate world. I did what the world tells you to do, right?
Yeah.
The world tells you to go get a job at a large corporation. And, I built a nice career for myself, and had a wife and three kids and bought the house with the white picket fence and the dog. And I did all the things that the world
That's true.
tells you to
Yeah.
do. But I wasn't living for God. I wasn't living for him, and I was a Christian, but it only in name only. It wasn't. I'd go to church on Sunday,
Mhm.
and as soon as the door hit me in the butt, I didn't think about church until the next Sunday.
Right.
So I wasn't really living a faithful life, and I
Mhm.
think God didn't. At some point, it's like when the pandemic hit, I call that kind of my second truck
Mhm.
because it had a really similar. It had such an impact on my life, similar to the first one. Right, the first one was like, okay, I'm on my way. Boom, my
Yeah.
whole life flips upside down. And the pandemic did that to me too, because my corporate sales job, I ended up getting let go because they were downsizing the sales team because I couldn't travel.
Right.
I was a traveling salesman,
Mhm.
and so. I was like, well, first time in my life, I'd actually had time to sit back and kind of look at what's going on in the world.
Right.
And I remember what really impacted me was I was doing research on all these topics and trying to figure out how I can keep my family safe. That brought me back to that early story about nutrition. I'm like,
Right.
hey, okay, I know nutrition is really important, so let's start eating well. And I was like, hey, maybe I can craft some supplements. And so I was doing research on that, and I saw this. The big pivotal moment was I saw this one doctor who was recommending vitamin D, and but the government or somebody, the evil people,
Yeah.
as I
Right.
call them now, were suing him for billions of dollars.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's this,
Something's
man, maybe
wrong.
vitamin D is really bad. So, I did a bunch of
Right.
research on vitamin D. It's like vitamin D is like the most natural thing you can get from the sun, right? And so I'm like, okay, I ruled out vitamin D being bad. And then I said, maybe the doctor is really, really bad. So then I dug into him, right? It's like
Mhm.
why maybe he's got some stuff hidden in the closet and he's just a really bad dude.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find anything wrong with him. He was like just a natural holistic practitioner
Mhm.
helping people naturally with their health. I'm like, okay, so this is weird. What would be the motivation between why they're suing him? And then I started doing research on that motivation. And when I did that, I was like, oh, my eyes opened up huge to what I call the medical cartel. right?
Uh-huh.
Literally is how corrupt our healthcare system is in the United States. And look in the early 1900s of how our medical schools were taken over
Mhm.
with the Rockefellers and the Flexner Report. And I
Yep.
started learning all of this, and it was just I got to the point where I was just so mad. I was like, how could this possibly happen? Right?
Right.
We live in the most free
America.
country. Yeah,
Right.
we live in America, right? We're wealthy. We have a lot of money to help people with their health, and I thought we were a land of the free, and started learning about how corrupt our media is and how we're really being fed an agenda. We're not being fed real information. That just those types of things I just had no clue of. Right in my corporate career, you
Mhm.
know, I didn't have time to look at any of that. I was very, very busy, right? Very busy with my family and my work, and I was
Mhm.
very dedicated to my work, and I did a good job of that. But I didn't really kind of sit back and look what's happening in the world. And
Right.
so the pandemic was a huge blessing for me in the respect that I learned about real health.
Yeah.
And so that has been a real big passion. Since then, I've just been focused on digging into all natural health and how to help myself and my family and people. And then I also, in parallel, I was researching the Bible. I'm
Mhm.
like, okay, I had time, so I'm like, okay, I've never really read the Bible. I've read lots of parts of it, never actually read it from cover to cover, and I just developed an amazing relationship with God during that period. I read the entire Bible, and I've done that multiple times now, and
Yeah.
and I study it every day. I'm in the Word every day, and man, I developed a relationship instead of a religion, and
Right.
that's been so passionate for me as I'm just like having so much fun because I now live for him. I don't live for me. And
Yeah.
everything I did up until just a few years ago was all about me. How can I get a better job? How can I get a better house? How can I get a better car? How can
Right.
everything was about Rob and his little world. And now it's just like none of that, literally none of that matters to me. So I'm
Mhm.
having a super fun time figuring out ways where I can have an impact on the world and on society. And I'm listening to him, and he's directing me in my path, and he's helped me develop some health solutions that I think are just phenomenal. The things that I would never have understood myself. There's no possible way I could have come up with these ideas and or solutions on my own. So I
Mhm.
know he's just leading me, and he's
Yeah.
feeding me the right people at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And then I'm just listening. I'm like, okay, Lord, what do you want me to do? Right? And how do you want me to do it? And it's just been so fascinating, the journey. Because
Mhm.
I can look at it now and I can say, I finally am doing what God has planned for me my entire life.
All
And
that.
all this trials and tribulations, yes, it sucked when I got hit by that first truck, and
Right.
my whole life just was gone. What I thought, right? What I wanted, what Rob wanted, wasn't happening. And so I was really depressed for a while, and went through all these trials. But now I can look back at that and say, man, he taught me all about nutrition, and he helped taught me all about health and dedication to being a professional athlete. He trained me how to do that. And
Mhm.
then, he put me into the corporate world, and he said, go learn how to communicate with people.
Mhm.
Go learn how to sell. Go learn how to, have conversations with the, really important people. And I've learned that, they put their pants on the same way I put my pants on. So it's like I can have a conversation with somebody that's really powerful and important, and I treat them now as the same person as me, even though I might not have the millions or billions of dollars that they
Right.
have. I can still have a human conversation with them. So just he taught me all these things, and then he's like, okay, now you're going to go learn about health. And you're
Mhm.
going to learn about religion, and
Yeah.
so it's like 5, 6 years ago, if you said I'm going to talk to anybody about my faith, I
Right.
would say you're crazy because I just like I was scared to talk about that topic because I just didn't know enough, right? And I wanted to be a Christian, right? I've worn this cross for decades in my life, but I wore it for the wrong reasons, right? I wore it because I wanted to show a cross. I
Mhm.
wasn't doing it because of that he died on the cross and saved my life. And now it's just like I'm just such a different person
Yeah.
I know I'm really comfortable in my faith, and I just super excited about the Bible, and I'm just on the mission now. I'm just like I want to help people, and if I can help people with their health, I believe then I can then also have a real conversation with them about faith. And so I include the faith aspect of my entire journey of what I'm doing. So anyway, sorry for the long
Gotcha.
answer,
That's
but
all
there you
right.
go.
Yeah. I had like a million things to say in the process of all of that. Okay, so let's see if I can remember them. So the first one is on the vitamin D piece. So
Yeah,
I'm a naturopathic doctor, and one of the things that I noticed was part of my yearly metabolic panel. Like every year, I do labs on people, and it's the same set of labs, and it's all
right.
included vitamin D. But then all of a sudden, insurance stopped covering it. So we had like insurance would cover the rest of it. They would cover the CBC and the metabolic panel and the lipid panel and their typical things. Some of thyroid, usually not the full panel, but vitamin D, all of a sudden people started having to pay cash and they would reject it even if the code, the diagnosis code that I would give it was vitamin D deficiency. Like, what else do you want? And then they kick it back and be like, try again. And I didn't. So I started having to have people pay cash for that one. It was crazy, but it was right around that same time frame. So that was
Yeah.
interesting.
Isn't that bizarre?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and then let me give you roadmap of some of the extra questions that I wanted to ask based on what you
Sounds
said.
great.
All
Sounds
right.
great.
So one of them is I would like you to give a brief overview to our listeners. I've had other guests in the past talk about the takeover of the Flexner report and how that shifted things, but I'd like you to give our audience a brief overview on that. That's number one.
Sounds good.
Number two is I wanted to just comment on the fact that your story of how God was preparing you over all of these years reminds me so much of Joseph. So I think that was so interesting, the fact that there's all of these preparatory phases that look like
Yeah.
nothing's happening,
Right. Right.
but
Right.
he's this master chess player and he's getting everything in line so that you can be launched into the thing that he had you doing.
That's
Yeah.
that's literally where I feel I'm sitting right today. I
Right.
really honestly like wow. I mean
Yeah.
and now I'm having such a blast because it's like the things that he's putting together and the vision that I have and what I'm trying to do, I can just see is just being tremendously important to the world because
Right.
no one knows me.
Yeah,
Well,
sure.
it's just fine. I don't care. I don't need people to know me, but
Mhm.
I don't want to build a small company to have a small impact.
Right.
Right? I want to build a large organization so I can have a large impact.
Right.
The better I can build my organization, the better impact I can have with people. So it's literally not about building a company where I can just make millions of dollars so I
Right.
can have things. That's
Yeah.
100% the opposite of my motivation. It's
Oh,
like, I
yeah.
want to build this thing so it can just have such a huge impact that,
Right.
at the end of the day, when I die, the thing I'm looking most forward to is for him to say, "Well done, good and faithful servant," right? Because
Absolutely.
that everything else doesn't matter,
Yeah, that's so true.
And
So,
so I live for that, which is just so bizarre. Because 5 years ago, if you had met me, it's not the same person I
yeah,
am
right.
today.
Well, and it's like the whole idea of seek first the kingdom of God and he will add all these things to you.
Yeah,
So you need
yeah,
to have like money is just a tool. It's a tool for you to do the things that he's put you here to do. But
right.
when it becomes an end in itself, that becomes a problem. There's a book that I recently read that was called The Infinite Game, Simon Sinek. And it's
Okay.
essentially, it's the most interesting way that I have heard the concept of integrity described. And
Oh, interesting.
it's essentially is the idea of if you're working for a purpose, then you're not going to become corrupted by trying to build your own empire, more or less.
Right,
And
right.
the
I
idea of,
like that.
yeah, if you're trying to like gain a certain number of people or a certain amount of money or whatnot, then
Yeah.
you're not going to ultimately get to where God wants you to be. But the infinite game is like, it doesn't end until, you die. And even then, it doesn't theoretically end. If you've created enough of an empire, you pass it on.
Amen.
The
Yeah.
goal is that you're supposed to be impacting the world for the Lord, and
That's awesome.
he's not
I'm
using
excited
it.
to read that one. I haven't read that
Yeah,
one yet.
it's
That'll be good.
fantastic. He's not a believer. If he is, he doesn't talk about it. But it's still such a
The
big
concept, yeah,
principle. Yeah.
makes total sense.
Right. Okay. So let's go back. Tell us the brief overview of what you learned about the medical system in the US.
Yeah, so that's what's just man, it made me
Yeah.
so mad because yeah, just the research I did as the Rockefellers they hired this gentleman. They named I can't remember his first name. His last name was Flexner,
Yeah.
and they wanted him to do an
Abraham.
analysis
Mhm.
of what was his first name?
Abraham. Yeah.
Abraham Flexner. So he developed this report, and in and of itself, the report had some good concepts in it, but they just
Right.
used it in a really nefarious way.
Yeah.
So they took that report and they they ended up val or invalidating anybody that was teaching um, holistic practices, all the things that you do, right? And they use the Flexner report as justification to create these medical schools, and you could only become a doctor in those days if you went through their specific medical schools. That was the problem.
Mhm.
And then what they were teaching in those medical schools was pharmaceutical-based medication.
Yep.
And they disavowed natural solutions, and they vilified anybody that was a holistic practitioner. So if you've heard the term quack, I'm sure before,
Mhm.
guess where that term came from? Right?
Sure.
That term came from back then they would vilify all the all natural health practitioners and they would call them quacks.
Mhm.
And it became the now that we see the media corruption going on in our world today, how they all parrot each other. That's what they did back then. They did this agenda that like, okay, we have to get rid of all these natural practitioners and only buddy that can teach health, it has to go through our medical schools. And guess what? Since we own all the pharmaceutical or we own all the oil companies, and the only thing that we can patent is pharmaceutical based medications.
Mhm.
Let's only teach pharmaceutical based medications and as the remedies. And so that became the foundation of our medical schools in the United States of America. So you can track it all the way back to
Yeah.
to that, and it's just so amazing how good a job they have done on creating that system that is discounts. Back then, 50% of our people that were helping people, aka practitioners and doctors,
Yeah.
were holistic practitioners.
Right.
Now, if you look at that number, it's like 0.1%
Mhm.
of people in the world are helping people holistically and naturally, like you're doing. So you're just amazing persons. I love you. Thank you for doing what you do because there's just so few of you, right? And we need to just change that. And so I have a big, huge heart and passion for helping people understand that because
Mhm.
there's no nowadays there's no disputing the medical system in the United States is broken. I
Sure.
think most people are starting to understand that.
Figure that out,
Even
right?
though they're in the system, they still realize that it's kind of broken. It's like we have the worst healthcare system in the world, and we have the most money. So there's got to be
Mhm.
we spend the most money on it anyway, right?
Right.
So
Yeah, yeah.
there's a huge discrepancy there, and so when you start talking to people, they kind of innately know there's something wrong, but they
Mhm.
don't know why,
Right.
and they don't know how to fix it, right? And so
Absolutely.
I get really frustrated with that, and I'm like, hey, the only way I know to fix it is to do education to people, and
Yeah.
then learn that guess what? God made our bodies so wonderfully and powerfully that if we give it the right nutrients and the right setup, guess what? It heals itself.
Amen.
You cut yourself, it heals itself. God made you that way.
Mhm.
So if we can just teach people to learn how to do that, we start healing the core of people's problems, then
Mhm.
guess what? We're going to have so much of a better, healthy society. And I always include prayer guides that go with our product because I want people to use that mind, body, spirit connection in their health because that is so important. It's just no one ever talks about that anymore, right? You go to the doctor and one, you have 15 minutes with them if you're lucky,
Mhm.
and for them to talk about nutrition or the core of what you're doing and why you're doing it and how to help you holistically. It's like it doesn't happen. They're too specialized on their field and they're incentivized in a totally wrong way. And
Mhm.
so I love the doctors and nurses and the people in the medical system. They're not the problem,
Mhm.
right? Most of them have really good hearts. It's just the system that we've set up, and big pharma has so much money, so much control that it just caused right now you can see this huge problem we have in our country. So
Sure, yeah. So, and to clarify one of the statistics that you mentioned, you said that we have the worst healthcare in the world. And so I think what that essentially is talking about is the life expectancy is the
yeah,
worst of the industrialized world, but we're paying the most per capita
there we go.
any
Yeah,
world
it's a better way to say
in the world. So I'm just
it.
clarifying because a lot of people will be like, "Oh no, our healthcare system is really good." And it is really good in terms of like state-of-the-art surgery, those kinds of things. So as
Right.
far as like emergency medicine techniques, we're fantastic for when people end up getting hit by a car, or
Yep.
something or
Yep.
a bus. But as far as the way that we deal with chronic disease, that becomes hugely problematic. And so I love
Yep.
the fact that you're shifting your perspective to what's wrong with this. And I think that, as you say, intuitively, a lot of people were getting there, but especially in the pandemic, that seems to be one of
Right.
the times when so many people opened their eyes and started to recognize we're not treating, first of all, a lot of this narrative doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Second, that
True.
we're treating symptoms and we've all everything is based on treating symptoms, but why did it happen? And that's
Right.
not a question that the system is designed to ask. And
No.
what you're describing as far as the way that the medical system is set up, so there's the philosophical differences of there's the mechanistic philosophy versus the vitalistic philosophy. And mechanistic is where you're separating out. It's like your body is a car, it's a machine. And if something breaks, then you go fix that thing and that thing is fixed and everything is great. And that would work if your body was a car. But
Yeah, exactly.
because God knew what he was doing, and like every living system is this intricate set of feedback mechanisms. So if you
Yeah.
tinker over here, then everything else is going to compensate over here. That's what side effects are. So that's the reason why if you hit something with a sledgehammer, which is what all the pharmaceuticals are designed to do,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
going to have all these repercussions. Plus, you're not fixing why it
Right.
happened because your body's smart. The symptom is the best adaptation to the thing that is happening. So if you don't like, you're going to end up not only creating problems over here, but you're suppressing the issue. It's going to go
That's right.
deeper and you're going to have to deal with
100%.
it later.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I love that. Yeah, exactly. So that's there've been it's so fascinating just to see that in reality, right? And you start seeing it in manifestation in people, and it's just like I love, the Maha movement. I'm so excited about the Maha
Yep.
movement because finally we're getting some visibility
Right.
into what's happening. But it's like such an uphill battle.
Right.
It's phenomenal. And yesterday with the was a Senate committee where RFK had to be in front of this committee, and I just saw some of the snippets. Just like it's so sad how they're just trying to rip him apart, and the things that he's trying to do are just so good for our health and our country. And it's just like, wow, we have just such a messed up system, and then it's incentivized in really, really the wrong way. So they've
Right.
done a masterful job at that, but
Yeah.
you know what? I know God is in control, and that at some
Working.
point we're going to turn it around, and
Right.
the people are going to learn. And so I'm excited to just be a little teeny part of that, and
Yeah.
hopefully, I can help people along that journey.
Fantastic. So tell us about what you've learned from biblical, right? Reading the Bible, incorporating biblical herbs, and then you also incorporate both molecular hydrogen and frequency-based therapies. Tell us a little bit about that combination and how you chose those particular modalities.
Yeah, sounds great. So started off with the frequency discussion because I was going to go build supplements. That was my first idea, right? And so I
Right.
was like researching the ingredients and trying to figure out what that would be. And then one of the gentlemen, the formulator I was working with, said, "Have you ever heard of quantum energy?" And I'm like,
Mhm.
"Quantum what?" So I'm like, I'd heard of quantum computing because of
Sure.
the
Yeah.
computer field I was in, but never heard of quantum energy. And so I said no. And he introduced me to this mad scientist who's been working on these patches for 30 years. And when I went and met with him, he put a sticker on my body. And I'm like, okay. It was like, what's got medicine that's gonna, go inside my body and help me? He's like, no. I'm like, okay, what's it going to do? He's like, well, it's got a frequency on it and it's gonna help you. And I'm like, okay, that's crazy. Well, putting a sticker on my body and there's no medicine. Come on, give me a
Yeah.
break, right? Literally, that I was thinking, and so I had to go do research. I'm like, this guy's nuts. But I developed it. That's one of the things I'm so excited about. What I'm doing now is I don't believe anybody, right, on almost
Mhm.
any topic anymore.
Right.
I
And
have to go do my own research, right? And
yep.
it's like I go do my research. I'm like, okay, this guy's bananas, right? Yeah, how do I figure out what he's trying to do, or if I just want to prove he's bananas. So
Right.
I go start doing research. I learn how the body, is made, and like, oh my gosh, our body is made up of energy.
Mhm.
Like, I didn't know that. Ding, ding, ding. So and then I started learning that even our cells interact with each other via vibration, and those vibrations give off, guess what? A frequency.
Mhm.
And I was like, frequency, that's a weird, complex word. What does that mean? So I started doing research on frequencies. I'm like, oh gosh, frequencies aren't weird. They're everywhere. They're
Yep.
like color, light is a frequency, sound is a frequency, and like use your cell phone, radio is a frequency. It's like, okay, so frequencies aren't weird anymore,
Yeah.
right? So all these things I just didn't understand, and
Yeah.
two, I didn't know about. I
Mhm.
started learning, and I'm like, oh my gosh! I just went down the research on Dr. Emoto. Do you know Dr.
Oh
Emoto
yeah.
and his,
Uh-huh.
in fact, I even have his book here. I love it so much that
Mhm.
his hidden messages in water, right? And how your intentions and other things have a physical impact on external things. I'm like, those things blew my mind because I had no clue about any of those, right? I was a salesperson selling technology, so
Right.
I'm digging into this whole world about science and about how the body works. And so if that's make the story a little bit shorter, I was
Mhm.
like, okay, I get it now. And what he does is he infuses these little crystalline structures on these patches with frequencies, and they can even we even include 40 Bible verses on our patches. So we
Mhm.
have 40 Bible verses and the intention and the frequency for the problem on these patches. You apply them to the body, and they connect
Yeah.
with your energy system,
Yeah.
and they help you with certain health conditions. I was like, wow, that is fascinating.
Mhm.
Something I didn't understand. And then, the people that we've had that are helping is just fun, right? The stories we get is like people who had chronic pain or chronic issues for decades, and they all of a sudden use this product, and an hour later, they're like, they
Mhm.
don't feel that anymore. So like
Yeah.
it's just fascinating how the body works and how these frequencies can have an impact on the body. So that was my first foray. It's just like, okay, wow, this is really, really cool.
Let me pause. Have you pause for a
Sounds
second there.
good.
So, is that a cymatic image? Is that how you create it?
No, it's a really a strange mechanism that he's got. He's got this machine that infuses the frequencies onto those little crystalline structures. So I can't explain how he's done. He's been working on it for 30 years, so I don't know the exact science of how he's creating the frequencies on these little crystalline. But it's really, I equate it to a computer, right?
Mhm.
You're taking ones and zeros and you're putting them onto a hard drive on
Mhm.
a computer, and
Yeah.
he's figured out a way to encode those crystalline structures with that frequency.
Yeah. So
So,
just
so
getting nerdy for a second.
yeah, no
I would
problem.
I would suggest just out of curiosity asking him if that's what it is. So what a cymatic image is, essentially, it's like, so imagine if you have a subwoofer, right, that's playing
Yeah,
music, and you put a plate of sand on top of the subwoofer that's playing
right.
a particular frequency, and that sand is being jostled in a
Okay.
particular arrangement, and then it creates a fractal. That is the image that is of that frequency. That's a cymatic image.
Got it.
I'm
Got it.
curious
Got it.
if that's what it is. So
Yeah, I know that the machine is a really complex machine. It's got crystals in it, and that fuses this energy in this little field, and it's like
that's awesome.
he calls it, the research behind it is subtle energy. I don't know if you've ever heard of subtle energy, which is the early term, and I think now people are making that term quantum energy.
Right. Okay.
Whereas his science was before I think they started using the word quantum, and
Mhm.
so he calls it subtle energy.
Right.
And so anyway, it's just fascinating because it's an energy that you can't measure. And so
Yeah.
that's what's really hard for people because I'll give them one of my patches, and they're like, a scientist will come and try to do frequency analysis on the patch, and it's like you can't detect it because it's a subtle energy, an energy that's
Yeah.
undetectable, just like our energy fields in our body, right?
Sure.
That's proven, and we can see that, even film that we have an energy system in our bodies that go out like 2 feet, and that's been proven. But
That's
how
the
do you,
aura. Hmm.
yeah, but no, you can't see it, right? And
Sure.
people, so
Mhm.
it's just hard concepts for people to understand, and I get it because I didn't think it would work, but I just with proof with real people,
Yeah.
right? You try it on people who've had a chronic
Sure.
issue for a while, and all of a sudden they use your product, and all of a sudden it goes away.
Right.
There's no denying that is work. So anyway, it's been
Right.
fascinating. That
Yeah.
was my first journey into this world was that.
Mhm.
And so,
Right.
and then I started doing that research on the Bible, and man, I dug into all the biblical ingredients in the Bible, and that's what ended up creating Exodus.
Mhm.
Was I was so fascinated with all the herbs and superfoods in there, and there's some really awesome things in the Bible,
Mhm.
right? And I was like, where? But I was praying, like, there's got to be something that like combination I can put together that just no one's ever done before. And but I
Mhm.
couldn't find it, right? There's frankincense on the market, there's myrrh on the market, there's saffron on the market. And I was just like, how can I do something that's special, that really help people in a dramatic way? And then the Lord is good. It's like amazing. He led me to this practitioner who's been working on molecular hydrogen.
Mhm.
And he told me about what molecular hydrogen does in the body, and I started doing the research. There's thousands of studies on hydrogen in the body, and I was like, "Wow, that's amazing!" And he has this patented technology that when the capsule goes inside your body creates the molecular hydrogen. So,
Mhm.
and since your body's creating it, it assimilates it much better. Like now, you've seen the hydrogen water bottles, right? You click a
Right.
button and it creates hydrogen, and
Mhm.
those are good, but they diffuse really quickly. So if you don't
Right.
drink it immediately, they're gone. And then by the time you actually drink it and get it into your stomach, into your into your esophagus, into your stomach, it diffuses on its way down. So by the time your body assimilates it, there's not a lot of hydrogen left.
Mhm.
So for the fact that our product creates the hydrogen in the body, it assimilates it much more. So it's much more impactful. So
Mhm.
anyway, that what we decided to do is I was like, let's take, because he wanted to market his product in a faith-based way, and I had these products and had all these biblical ingredients. I'm like, let's take the seven best complementary ingredients in the Bible that enhance what molecular hydrogen does, and then vice versa. The cool thing about molecular hydrogen, it enhances all of my herbs. So I put seven different herbs that are amazing into the body. That we have barley grass and wheatgrass, which really help with the nutrients that most people need. If you look at most people with the 70% of our foods being ultra processed foods, we just our soils lacks nutrients, etc. So our American diet is horrible, and we're
Sure.
not getting enough nutrients. So barley grass and wheatgrass help with a lot of nutrients. So that helps a really large majority of people just with those two things.
Right.
Then we have saffron in it, which saffron's super expensive. It's more expensive than gold, but saffron's great with a mood response, right? So people anxious or anxiety, that are stressed out, that's amazing, amazing component. And then we added cumin, aloe. Aloe is really good with gut health. There's hundreds of benefits of aloe, but it's really good with gut health. And cumin, frankincense, and myrrh, kind of a combination that helps reduce the inflammation response.
Mhm.
And so I have a podcast. I interview holistic practitioners like yourself. I'd love to have you on my show. That
Thanks.
would be
Yeah.
super fun.
Yeah.
But a lot of them talk about how the gut, your health starts in your gut,
Mhm.
right? And if you can reduce inflammation, and inflammation, I'm finding that it literally is the source of all disease. It's
Mhm.
inflammation. And
Yeah.
so it's like, wow, that's amazing. So if you have a product that can help reduce inflammation, gives
Right.
you the nutrients you need, and then you look at the benefits of molecular hydrogen, and
Mhm.
that's just through the off the charts because it goes into the bloodstream and acts as a master antioxidant, right? So, or a selective antioxidant if you want to
Yeah.
get more technical,
Right.
right? And it goes and gets the free radicals and gets rid of the free radicals, but helps the mitochondrial process work more efficiently.
Mhm.
So the combination of those biblical herbs and the molecular hydrogen is
Mhm.
just it's absolutely phenomenal product. There's no other product in the world like it.
Yeah.
And the problem is just no one knows I have it. So
Mhm.
again,
Yeah.
eventually they will, and I'm excited because the people that are using it are super, super excited. And I
Mhm.
just did a bunch of research the last few months, and it's so impactful for women 40 plus that
Mhm.
as you're going through menopause, this product just hits every single problem that woman 40 plus has.
Mhm.
Gives her, helps with the water retention, it helps with the just mitochondrial process, the things that you're missing as a woman, this helps with. So
Mhm.
yeah, as you're going through menopause, and so anyway, it's just super exciting to help people. I'm like, wow, this is so much fun. So that's the nature behind the Exodus, and then
Right.
we have this prayer guide,
Mhm.
right? I love the prayer guide because in the prayer guide we have an intention, we have a Bible verse, and we have a prayer.
Hmm.
So we literally want you to say it out loud because we there's power in the tongue. The Bible literally tells us there's power in the tongue. And
True.
so if you're using your eyes and you have that intention, right? You have the intention for your health and
Hmm.
you declare it with your mouth. And so you get your mind engaged and then you're praying to the Lord may heal you just by because you prayed, right? Which is if I have one person that gets healed because they actually asked for it and the only reason they did it because of my prayer guide, that
And
my job's done, right?
yeah.
Amen, right? So I'm
Right.
so excited about that because if you engage the mind, body, spirit, connectivity,
Hmm.
it's so powerful to people. Your mind is so powerful. God is so powerful. If
Yeah.
you get those connected, and then you use the supplement in concert, and
Mhm.
you're doing it all intentionally, you're going to get better, right? Things are, in my opinion, right? I can't make any claims,
Right.
as you know, but it's just fun because I'm like, wow, I've really got something special here, and so I'm having a blast trying to help people
Right.
with that. And that's kind of become my new mission is to how can I really impact the world and I'm super excited about building a community. I've got this strategy with my newsletter, my podcast, and a community I'm building that I'm super excited. I want to talk to you about. It's called Biohackingville.
Hmm.
What it is, people are really interested in biohacking, and I want to just leverage that and say, great, I want to have a bunch of biohacking information for people who are just interested in biohacking. You
Right.
want to learn about red light therapy? Great, we're gonna have places for you to learn about red light therapy,
Yep.
right? But guess what? Inside there, we're gonna have a lot of information about integrative oncology. This is something I'm very, very passionate about. There's so many people that are going through cancer, issues and stories, and I have my own story that I'm going to be healed of melanoma,
Hmm.
and so I'm going through that process. But I've had a really uh, I hate to say it, but I've really had a blast learning about cancer and
Hmm.
about how complex it is and how every single type of cancer is so different
Hmm.
and the way to treat it is so different. Even like my specific melanoma, they've got a BRAF mutation on my melanoma. That means I've got to treat mine differently than anybody else that has a different melanoma. So it's like if you don't understand that, you're going to go to the healthcare system and they're going to say, "Oh, standard of care says you need to do this."
Hmm.
And most people go and say, okay, I do this.
And just
And man, there's just so many things we can do to help people. And I'm developing all these resources and places to go and things to do. And I always want to be a resource for people. It's like, hey, if you want to go, you get cancer, guess what? They're going to have a repository of places for you and information for you, right? Books to read and places to go to get well naturally if you can, and just supplement what the medical system is doing. If you're going to go down that route, then
Mhm.
supplement with other things and add other things that are going to just give you a better chance at survival and at a better life.
Mhm.
And so, anyway, that's super, super. And the third part of that community, last one, is a faith component, right? I obviously am very a faithful person, and I believe that I want to have a community in there that has faith-based health as a really big part of what they're doing. And if I can invite anybody who comes in to looks at red light therapy and all the cool things of how red light therapy helps you, but then they say, oh, hey, well, what's this faith component? What are these people talking about? Mind, body, spirit. What does that mean? And they're interested and they
Mhm.
might be able to talk them into having a discussion about their faith. Well, anyway, that's my big life goal is to
Awesome.
build this Biohackingville community that's just an amazing community that we have resources to help people immediately with their health. And then we've got to have resources of holistic practitioners like yourself that we can lead people to. We can funnel people into
Yeah.
really good health practitioners. And I'm going down to Tijuana next week for some treatments that are advanced treatments that I can't get in the United
Right.
States,
Yeah.
right? So I want to educate people on why would you do that, and then where would you do that, and all those types of things. Is I want to just be a resource for people. So I
Mhm.
think that's what the mission that God has me on is. Okay, yeah, He's put me through some really tragic and interesting issues and problems, but guess what? I'm going to use every single one of those for His glory, and
Mhm.
it's all going to be for Him, and I'm going to help impact the world in this manner. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying to build.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit more about if somebody wants to learn more about you and about Exodus Strong, where can they go?
Yeah, so the best way, exodusstrong.com is so just think of Exodus the book and then strong and
Hmm.
then .com. But
Yep.
if you hit /free,
Hmm.
I have a little gift I can send. You just send me a self-addressed stamp envelope, and I'll send you a free travel pack of the product. So you can try it for free, like
Hmm.
literally no cost
Yeah.
other than the stamp. And then the other way, have a couple of travel packs for less than $10 if you want to just try that, or you can buy bottles, right? So it's up to you. I just want to try to get the product in as many people's hands, and I think that's a nice little gift that I can give people who don't have or just are skeptical about the product. Try it for free, and then I think you'll come back. That's a great way about it. So then, biohackingville.com is a site that is being launched in the next few weeks, and super stoked about that. And I believe over the next 12 months, it's going to be a great resource for people to get healthy and get well and have fun doing it.
Hmm. Awesome. Well, I will link to that in the show notes. And thank you so much, Rob. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, you're amazing, Lauren. I appreciate you.
Thank you.